and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be working on our little chick, and a lot of you guys have asked me to do this one for a long time now, so we're going to get that video out to you. And what we're starting with is we're starting with an egg gourd, and I wanted one that's a little bit more pointed, that has a more egg shape than one that doesn't. So we want, make sure he's big enough that you can work with him, or if you want to do a smaller one, you can do a smaller one. That's up to you. I went ahead and base coated my egg because I think it's easier than to do it later and try and get in all the cracks. And I use like an Empire Gold or a straw, golden straw, or anything like that that's a yellow, but it base coats real easy. If you use a yellow, it takes a lot to base coat it. You could even, if you wanted it bright yellow, you could even base coat it with this and then put the bright yellow on top, and then you'd have a lot less layers to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our QuickWood, and we're going to start by using a sheet of wax paper and vegetable spray. And the number one rule when you're working with QuickWood is take all your jewelry off, because it sticks to your jewelry. I even have those guys. I've even found them on the inside of these guys after I've done a video. And I've wiped my paper with my vegetable spray as well as my hands to keep it from sticking to the wax paper. And I do have a lot of videos on QuickWood. I do have a basic one that tells you quite a bit about it. This is a product we do sell on our website as well. So if you're having a hard time finding it, it is a little bit harder to find. You can find it there at miriamjoy.com. The reason I like QuickWood is I treat it like a clay. It has 30 minutes workable time. It's rock hard in an hour. So that is why the reason I like to use it. Now, when you open it, it's 2 parts epoxy. There is your one part and there is your second part. And I'm going to cut a piece about that big off. And we're going to put that back on and use that in a little bit later. It's real important. There's a plastic around it, and I can't tell you how many times I've taught a class and they'll still have the plastic in it, so make sure you remove that plastic. Now, to activate it, we knead it, and we have to knead it until all the color is one solid color, is not marbleized, and it starts to get warm to the touch. So we're going to knead that a little bit here. And another little thing, the trick that I like to do is a lot of times I will have, this is just a lid of my QuickWood. This isn't big enough that I could, or small enough that I can set it there. I'll do that if I have a bigger piece so that I can keep it working. You also could use an egg holder or different things like that as well. Now we've got that all nice and neat here. And we're going to put his wing on first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take him and I'm going to roll him into a ball, first of all. And then we're going to kind of roll him up on top to make him like a teardrop. So we have kind of a teardrop shape. And decide where you want the front of the face to be. And we want to think about how high his wings come up, because you don't want it above his little eyes right there. So we're going to bring him down right about there. And I'm just trying to make that even all the way around. Nice and smooth. And I've done it several different ways. I have done it where I have shaped the wing more, gave it a little bit more shape, brought it in with my clay knife, all kinds of different things. So whatever shape you kind of want. I actually kind of thought that I like I think that's too much up there, so I'm going to pull a little bit of that off. Just a smooth wing, just as well as anything. Make sure your sides are nice and smooth. Get all of your fingerprints out of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my one on the other side. I went ahead and did our second little wing, and you make sure you line them up on top and bottom and they're same amount. And you don't have to use this much QuickWood. If you want them thinner, you can do them thinner, whatever you want to do, however thick you want to make them. I had a little piece left over, so I'm going to go ahead and put my nose on now. You can either usually do the top or you can do the nose next. It doesn't matter. Now we want to I'm just taking this little piece and I'm putting my fingers on both sides of it, kind of making it a little beak. And I actually want to push the bottom up a little bit more to give it more of a curve. If you want it smoother, you can smooth it out. If you like the more squareness, you can have it a little bit more square. I've got a little bit off-centered there. But what I also want you to think about is the eyes. We still want to have room for the eyes. So I'm going to bring it down just a little bit because we've still got to get our eyes between here and the comb on that. So, and make sure you have it straight. For some reason I haven't been getting mine quite as straight when they're sitting straight up and down. Now you don't want your QuickWood to get too dry either, because that's when it doesn't want to stick. But if you do have a piece that doesn't want to stick or has come off, just E6000 it back on. It's not a big deal. Or if you know it's getting dry, you can put a tad of E6000 underneath it as well. Now that we've got his wings and beak on, let's go ahead and do his feet. And let's get a new batch of QuickWood here. We don't need it too big. This doesn't take a lot of QuickWood because we're only doing a few things on him. Don't forget to take the plastic off. And if your QuickWood doesn't harden up, you didn't need it enough. Get a lot of people that say, what is wrong with it? And I'll ask them if they needed it all the way. So it's real important to do that. Another thing I do is if I have a piece of leftover, you can put it in here right now. But if I have leftover, I take it, my wax paper, and I cover it up to try and keep the air from getting to it so it doesn't dry as fast. If it's starting to get hard, don't knead it in. But if you have a piece that's you didn't use last time, you can knead it into this piece, and that's not a big deal. So we're going to take this piece, we're going to divide it into two kind of equal parts, and we're going to roll them into teardrops again. Kind of about like that. Let's make sure we got even pieces here. A lot of times I'll roll them into balls first and make sure they look pretty even, and that looks pretty good right there. So what I'm going to do, try and do this front way so you can see it as well. Sorry, a little bit more pointed. This guy's just a tad bit bigger, so we're going to take him off and cover him up. Check that again, and that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to squish these guys down, and I've kind of put them together already, and kind of squish them down. And so we've got the feet there, and then we're going to take them and I'm going to cut them, and you're going to think about little pointed toes, their little feet, and try and clean that inside part there and bring those to a point. Now this part, You can pull that out, but I had so much in the middle, I'm just going to cut it. So we've got little chicken feet. Okay, so we're going to do the same again to the point. So bring that out and to a point, and we're going to do the same again. This guy is a little bit bigger, and cut those to point. I also have a class on the Christmas mice that's made out of the mini bottle gourds. It's really cute, so check that out on my website. It's a real fun one to make for the holidays. Okay, now that we've got our feet right there, if you want to, you also can come in and kind of put a little bit of a point or a nail on them, and that is with the hobby knife that I'm using there. So now we've got those feet right there. We're not going to move them. We're actually going to set our Easter egg, gourd egg, excuse me, right on top here, and just push it till it sits on those eggs, on those feet. Get my words mixed up here. Now I'm going to come in here because I couldn't quite see it from the direction I was doing, and just kind of clean these feet out a little bit. So now we have him. Now we're going to have him tipped a little bit. You want to make sure he's kind of straight up and down, but we're going to put his tail on, and his tail is also going to help support that back part. We'll make him stand up straighter here. And you can see why I didn't put the comb on yet, because I wanted to push down on it with his feet. And sometimes the feet I will do first, but the wings I kind of felt get in the way with this little guy here. And from the back he looks a little bit crooked, but this gourd kind of comes up and has its own little style, uniqueness to him. And that's what's so great about these guys. I've done, gosh, quite a few over the years, and they all have their own little special touch or unique quality about them. I've even done these without adding any QuickWood to them as well. So however you feel you want to do them. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to kind of roll this oblong, get all the lines out. And we're going to push this down just a little bit right here to kind of form his tail. Now that part I'm not going to push too much till we get up to the chicken, and then I'll push that on to connect him. And I'm going to take one of my wax tools, and we're going to kind of bring this in, and we're going to kind of bring the tail feathers in. And we do have clay tools in stock. So we're giving him a little bit of a tail feather. And when you get him the shape you want him, I'm going to come over, and I want that kind of laying on the ground a little bit, and I want to make sure it's even with where I'm putting him, and then we're going to push that on. And I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to try and smooth it out and make it disappear. I'm going to leave that because that's where his tail kind of is, and we're going to smooth that all the way around. And another good tool to get in with here is the wax design tools. They work good in there. Now you can make sure that he's standing straight up, and this really secures him between the feet and the tail, so if there's anything you need to adjust, you can kind of move him around. And like I said, from the back he looks a little bit more crooked because the egg is not real shaped nice. Now we only need a little bit more for our comb. We've got that last little piece still. I always say the hardest part of QuickWood is cutting off a small part. And don't forget, no matter how small, you've still got that plastic on there. Let's see if I've got enough. And I'm going to knead this, and I'm also going to knead my piece back into it. And on this tail, you could even bring him out just a little bit. I've got him tucked in there a little bit. You could bring him out a little bit more. Don't think of your wax tools just for wax. They're great for clay. And if that doesn't work, what I do underneath him, now see, he seems to be sitting up good, but I'll take a little piece of QuickWood, probably a little bit smaller than that, put a circle just right behind his feet and set it down, and that really makes him stable. But he's pretty good and stable. So now that we've got this all worked in together and have it kind of one piece, we're going to make our little comb here. And we're going to start to shape it. And I've got him too narrow at the bottom. We don't want him too narrow at the bottom, nor too wide on top. We're going to come in here and we're going to cut him into 3 even parts. And this is kind of what gives him a little bit of a character. And I'm going to kind of knead those to a point. And I'm going to work them some more once I have them on as well. Doesn't all have to be done right now. And I want to kind of bring the front one towards the front, the back one towards the back, and whatever character you want to kind of give that. Now let's get this little base on. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pull this around. And I don't like the shape of this, so I'm going to start again. I need a little bit wider base. A little bit fatter. If you don't like what you're doing, that's what's so great about QuickWood. Take it off and do it again. So I'm going to put him right up there. Now, what we're going to do is we're sliding the QuickWood on to the egg to blend it in and hold it in place. Now if you get it too far down, just come in and slide it all the way off. You only want a little bit right up around the top, like his little crown is coming from there. And then try and get that all nice and smooth. Now I've kind of pushed my guy back a little bit, I can tell, so I'm going to move him back forward. And you can take his little piece and you can turn it cockeyed, like one going that direction and one going that direction, to kind of give him character. However you want to make those pieces go, that is totally up to you. It's all a personal preference or shape of your egg. You could probably do this on a real egg as well. Just blow it first. You don't want to. If you didn't have an egg gourd, you might fill it in the middle with something, glue or silicone or something like that as well. Now, this guy, we've got him kind of the way I want him to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let him dry for a little bit so I don't get into anything. A lot of times I don't. I just keep on going, but that's a total preference. It's up to you where you're at, what you still have to do, whether you need to let it dry or you can keep on going. So we're going to give him a few minutes to dry here. Now that he's kind of dry enough that we can work with him, we're going to start painting him. I also put this tool underneath to help pull that tail out. So if you need to do things like that as well, that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and finish painting him now. And this is why we put the stuff under the wax, the vegetable spray on the wax paper so he doesn't stick. And we're going to go ahead and base coat these with the same color or yellow that we used for our body. And we're going to do our wings and our tail. And I'm going to get the back of him and underneath, clear up there. And this is where your dry board comes in handy. We've got that new Versa spin, and we could put that on and keep turning him, and that would be a really nice thing. We've only got a few of those left, and it's a one-time thing. It's one of my new favorite things to work with. It's a drying board, and you can varnish with it, but just great for other things than just gourds. Pottery and clay and all kinds of fun things. I'm also going to come up to the top here and just clean these little lines all the way around where we brought that clay down just a little bit. And I refer to QuickWood as clay because that's what I use it like. And that wing went down on his feet, which I really don't like, so that way I can get the feet painted a little bit easier. Make sure you get the edges all in there. So I can hold it from different angles. I do that a lot with my work because I hold it from different angles, because where you see something one time you may not see it the next time. My feet are a little bit not quite set up all the way, so I'm being a little bit careful with them. Okay, so while that guy's drying, we're going to start on his feet and his beak. And we're going to use tangerine because it covers a little bit better or thicker than just orange, and I don't have to put as many coats on it. I'm going to start with the bottom so we can get those dry fastest. And stand him back up on his feet. You also can put them on your dry board. It's going to be a little bit more tricky because we've got that wing right up against there. These feet make the character, but I probably would do them a little bit smaller next time, but that's all in making each one individual and making them their own personality. So don't feel that they can't have bigger feet or bigger beaks or bigger combs. Change the shape of their wings, whatever. That's fine. I'm laying my brush down and pushing it up underneath to kind of get in that area without getting that orange color up on the body. Sometimes you can't help it. You can always go back and paint it a little bit orange, or you can leave it. That's up to you. We're trying to get in there without getting that orange color on the top. Nobody's probably going to look up under there anyway. Alright, now let's go ahead and paint his little beak. And of course, just all the way around. If you were doing the orange, it would take a few coats. If we're using the tangerine, may just take a coat or two. Get bumped up there. Try not to get it onto the part itself, and I'm going to have to come in there. I did get a couple on there, and either take them off with a Q-tip or color them back over. And I'm probably just going to cover them back over. Sometimes if you have a wet brush, you can also come in and kind of just erase it while it's still wet. That worked pretty well. Got one more to do down here. Just a little bit of a touch-up. Now I'm going to do the same with red. I'm going to use tomato spice, which is a thicker red. The same reason it covers so much better. Red is a really hard color to base coat. A lot of times what you can do is start with a darker color, tomato red, a barn red, and then if you want bright red, you can put it right on top. But I like the tomato red. It happens to coat very well, and I don't think it is that less red than the red. So that is one of the ones that I like to use, color I like to use. I think we're only going to need one coat on that guy. And I put my finger in his beak, but I'm going to touch up around his outside of his beak first, and then we'll do his beak again. I've got red in my brush. If you want to do more than these, sit down and do them assembly line. They'll go a lot quicker than if you're doing one by one by one. They'll come out a lot faster. You'll be happy with the results. Okay, so we've got all the little features. It's kind of base coated. One little crack in this red right there. I'm going to start floating color around his wings to make them stand out, and his comb to kind of blend it in with the rest of them. So I'm going to use tangerine, and I'm going to use some color float or blending solution. I'm going to switch to an angle, but you can use a flat. And I'm going to load that, and I'm going to load the paint. Let's move that over here so I'm not walking across. About halfway down in my brush, and I'm going to blend it back and forth. And what you're going to do is go from color to nothing. And that's when you know you've got that right where you want it. And we're going to go all the way around his wings. You want to load it same side every time. I do have a video that goes into a lot more detail about floating. So we're going to do that all the way around his little wings. And join them together up there. So we've got that all nice and done. Now let's go do the other side. All the way around. That guy, we kind of ran into his foot, so we'll stop at his foot. And I got some paint on his wing that I need to fix, and just kind of touch him all up a little bit here. Around that comb, the paint side up against the red, so it blends out into the yellow. And didn't put it around the beak on that one. I'm going to put a little bit just to bring that out just a tiny bit around the beak. Okay. I'm also going to do a little bit of white. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some highlights that'll show through our strokes. We're going to do one on his tummy. A little bit watery, just to kind of highlight it. And then we're also going to do some on his wings. Gotta touch that up there a little bit, and on that wing as well. We're just kind of curving it around. I'm also going to do, keep your fingers out of it, a little bit on his tail. Just those little guys right there. And because we made this tail show up, I might do one there. And that's another part I forgot to float with the tangerine. So I'm glad we caught that. We're going to come and go all the way around that tail. So now that it looks like the tail belongs to him, but yet it's separate from the rest of the body. All the way around that tail. Okay. Try and keep your floating. I got a little bit messy right there on that back wing, off the wings if possible, or the other parts. It should be down in the crease. I'm going to cover up some of my boo-boos here. I also saw, let's see, right there, that little guy came off, and then right there where his eyes go, we got some color on him and a little bit there. So just clean him up. Let's clean that up nicely. Fingers have been sitting on top. I remove that paint off of there. I'm going to add just a tad of liner work, not that much. I'm going to use my liner. I'm going to put some water into it, make it kind of an ink consistency. I'm going to put some yellow up on the comb just to make that look more like it belongs, or more feathery looking. It blends the yellow in with the red. I'm kind of doing longer strokes right down the middle of those. So we've got some color in that. And then I'm going to put a little bit of white right on those little nails. Doesn't have to be too much, just a little bit. You also could make it red. Doesn't have to be the white. You could make that red if you didn't quite like the white. Now I'm going to start the eyes, and I'm going to get a fresh batch of black paint, and we're going to put the eyeballs in, and the size I want right now, I'm going to use a pencil. Got a little magic helper here, and it's the right size circle I want for the eye shape, and you can always test it. Now be careful how much paint you have on there. That also makes it bigger, so we're going to put that like right there and try that little guy right like that. If you want them smaller, you can definitely do them smaller. And you also can use my wax tools, the larger ones, or if you want them smaller, use the smaller ones. So I'm just putting those right, and I don't have enough black on that guy. But you want to make sure that your paint is fresh when you do it, so you get a nice black. And sometimes you have to just play with them just a little bit to get them the same size. But now we've got a nice base for our eyes. We're going to let those dry a little bit. That's why I went ahead and did that little one right there. I'm going to put a little highlight right on his beak. And I'm also going to put his little nostrils, one on each side. And I'm going to kind of just lay it down, and that's called a peduncle. So that we've just got little nostrils for him. Now, while his little eyes are drying, we're going to go ahead and start our wax on him. If you're not familiar with the wax technique, it's Crayola Crayon. Go over to my site at miriamjoy.com, and you'll see a YouTube link, and the first video that pops up happens to be the wax design, and it'll go into all the details that you need to know about the wax design. So I'm going to be using my Zero tool, and I'm debating here on this smaller part. I might use my small tip. This is just Crayola Crayon. I'm using Dandelion. Dandelion is in the box of 24, and I did go with the smaller tip, the smaller end of my tool, and these are my tools designed just for this process. And I started in the 3 little areas right there, and now I'm just going to kind of come up, and I'm going to take one over the side here. I'm going to take one over the side here, and we're just going to kind of put it in between these guys. And you're just kind of filling the space in, but you want quite a bit so that it looks like it's feather. You don't want to just do a couple here and there. And then the next thing I started with was kind of going around the bottom and filling that in. And just go down to the tail if it doesn't fit. And a couple more over here. And then go between those and start bringing that up. So like that row we'd get 1, the next row we're going to have 2. Make sure you reload each and every time because you're running out of wax. So I'm going to kind of bring this around his tail now. just layering him all the way up. Make sure you keep his fingers out of his eyes. By the time we get to this back part done, his eyes will probably be ready for their next layer. And the attention to the details is what really makes these guys cute. So make sure you're giving them lots of details. I might even add a couple right there, just so it doesn't look like it's kind of stopping. Looks like it's going on up. And I'm going to kind of quit right before I get to the crown. So when I go around to the other side, we're kind of not getting quite into his eyes. So we've got that. I'm going to add some more crayon to my wax, and I'm going to go ahead and do the eyes. They're not quite dry, but hopefully they're dry enough. Now we want a size smaller than what we were working with, so we want to test it and make sure that that's smaller, and I need it just bigger than that. So I'm going to use my wax tools here. I think I even want to jump up one. I'm even going to go up one more. And now I'm getting, my paint has gotten too low, so I'm not picking up as much paint. So I like that size. So I'm going to pick a side and I'm going to go to that side with the paint. So it looks like he's looking in one direction at something. I've got him not quite real straight, but that's straight enough. That's what adds the character to them. So while that guy's drying, I'm going to hold it this way and go right up the middle of him. I'm going to start the same way. Go all the way up kind of towards the beak, and I want to make sure that I add some little eyebrows to them. Eyebrows really make a character. It kind of is the insight to the eyes. Makes them happy, sad, scared. Make sure we give him some eyebrows as well in just a minute here. Bring that up the side. I'm going to add one right there. I'm not going to bring any more right underneath him. But what we're going to do now is we're going to make these meet. Another one there, and we're going to put one right there. So we're going to do the same thing over here. Going to bring up one there and one more right there. And I'm going to add one more little one right there. So we've got that done. So now we're going to come in, we're just going to fill in our wings, and I'm going to start at the bottom, kind of just walk it around. Don't want them too far apart, but you do not want them touching. And then try to kind of stagger them a little bit. Sometimes it's harder. You might have to go over a tail of one, that's okay. put one there and blend it together, and one there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the other wing exactly like that, and then hopefully our eyes will be dry enough to put the highlight in them. We've gone ahead and finished that other wing, and what this does is it gives it a three-dimensional, and it makes it look puffy and soft and cuddly. So that's the reason that we put the wax onto it, is to give it that extra texture. I'm going to go ahead and try to put a couple up there, just on top. I think that really adds to it. We'll do the other side. Okay, so we've got him really close to being done. What we're going to do is we're going to put his eyebrows on, and then we're going to do that in black, and then we're going to finish up his eyes. And I am just going to do a nice little arch above his eyebrows. And I do jack-o'-lanterns and stuff as a kid. I always had to have eyebrows on them. Now you want to make sure that your white is nice and fresh, or take the skim off the top and get underneath it. And we're going to set a dot into the eye on each side, again on the side. And what I'd like to do is put just a little bit of a highlight, so I need just a bit of water on the pupil part. Actually, it's going to be on the black part, just to show highlight. And just right there on both sides. So we've added our character and gave him a lot of depth. I'm almost thinking on this little guy, for some reason, I want some underneath lines. Not much, just a little bit. Oops, got excited here. Just makes those eyes more round. So there's lots of different things you can do to show character in your little guy, or add different things to him. So now that we've got him all done, you've already painted him, wait for his paint to dry, and we're going to finish him up, and we're going to use on him, we're going to use our 3D crystal lacquer. I've been using this a lot more. This is a little guy that's going to get roughed up a little bit more, handled a little bit more, knocked over a little bit more often, so we want a little bit more secure coating on him, just like I did just now. So you can either take this straight out and pour it into something, but I like to just use it straight out of the bottle. Don't shake it like I just did. And the first thing I do is wet my brush so it's just damp. You don't want any water into it. And we're just going to come and we're going to put it right onto the chick itself. And this should be nice and thick. And you don't want to have any thick parts. You want to try and even it out as much as possible. And it's going to also give it this great coating as well, shiny coating. And so I do it kind of like that. If you're more comfortable setting it in something, then go ahead and put it in something and use your brush and dip in it. You don't want to put too much on that you're working within that area. And I would do 2 to 3 coats. The more it's going to get handled, or if you give it as a gift, you might want to put more on it. That just helps protect it that much more. And don't forget his little feet and the beak and all those little fun areas, and finish him off by doing the very top of him. And that is how we varnish our little guy. To close these, I take them and I blow some air up and down through it to clear that out. It also comes with a little pin that you can stick in, so if it gets clogged up, you can unclog it. But that is our little chick. This has been a lot of fun. I'm want to see all the little chick egg gourds now, so send those in to me at art@miriamjoy.com or post them on my Facebook page at Miriam Joy Gourd Creations. Come on over. We're doing some great Easter contests right now, and join us. Thank you.